It's not only servers such as a Windows server that we can make into a VPN provider, but we can also use the firewall as a VPN provider. And it's similar to a Windows server as far as VPNs go. Some of the VPNs are exactly the same and some are a little bit different. And clients connect to the firewall to get their IP address. So there may be a built-in DHCP server or a pool of IP addresses for the clients as they connect to the firewall, or there'll be a referral to the Windows or Linux DHCP servers on the inside. One of the more popular types of VPNs when connecting to a firewall would be the Internet Protocol Security, or IPSec. IPSec is used to secure internet communications across an IP network. IPSec can authenticate the session and encrypt it, encrypting each data packet during the connection. It operates in two different modes. First, there's transparent mode, and the other is tunneling mode. The transparent mode encrypts the message in the data packet, and the tunneling mode encrypts the entire data packet. IPSec can also be used with other security protocols that enhance their security system. However, you may see it get blocked in various different hotels and other public locations. Layer 2 tunneling protocol, or L2TP, is a tunneling protocol that's usually combined with another VPN protocol, such as IPSec, and it creates a highly secure VPN connection. Point-to-point tunneling protocol creates a tunnel and then encapsulates the data packet. It uses point-to-point protocol to encrypt the data between the connection. PPTP is a widely used VPN protocol. However, it has been broken and it's found to be not as secure as other types of VPNs. Secure socket layer and transport layer security create a VPN connection where the web browser acts as the client and user access is restricted to specific applications. This is similar to the Windows version of SSL VPN called SSTP. However, the SSTP application for VPN in Windows does allow access into the entire internal network, whereas the firewall versions do not. One of the advantages to using SSL and TLS VPNs is that you don't have to worry about being blocked in a public location or hotel. OpenVPN is an open source VPN, and it's very good for creating point-to-point as well as site-to-site connections. It uses custom security protocols based on SSL and TLS. However, it is open source. And not all firewall VPNs will support OpenVPN. Secure Shell isn't really a type of VPN that a client would use to connect to an internal network. Instead, it creates a VPN tunnel, which the data transfer happens and also ensures that the tunnel is encrypted. It connects devices to each other, such as if I wanted to remote control into my firewall from a public location. I would use SSH VPN in order to get to that device from my device, which could be a Windows or Linux computer or even a smart device. PuTTY is one of the most popular types of applications that allows us to use SSH, and it is open source and freely available. Firewall VPNs are similar to server VPNs, but there are some important differences. Make sure you inform yourself as well as your managers about all the advantages and disadvantages of each protocol. There's many things that can go wrong with virtual private networks. Let's take a look at how we can troubleshoot client-to-site VPNs. If the VPN server is not responding, you want to make sure there are no other VPN software packages installed. Check the anti-malware logs and see if it may be blocking access. If no one can access the VPN, then check your firewall and internet connections. You can also have the client do a trace route from the client to the server to see where it stops responding. If the internet provider is blocking your VPN, then you should offer more than one VPN type. If using IPSec, then also offer SSL VPN or L2TP VPN. Then the client can use whatever works best for them. Sometimes older VPN software hasn't been upgraded in a while, and a simple upgrade exe file made available on a shared drive can help. Many home routers will block outbound VPN, especially point-to-point tunneling protocol. You'll need to make sure no outbound traffic is being blocked. The ISP may also be blocking VPN traffic, so a quick call to the ISP will confirm that, and sometimes they'll open up the port if requested. When all else is working well except web browsing, it's likely that you chose a merged tunnel instead of a split one. That means web browsing is going back to the corporate network and out to the internet from there, which slows things down. Consider a split tunnel if possible, but make sure filtering is done at the client level first so they don't go to websites that could cause the computer or the network harm. If users can't browse the network, then it's likely they didn't get any DNS server information. Statically setting the DNS for the internal connection in the TCP/IP properties should fix the problem, or it can be done on the VPN client. VPNs can be difficult to get started, but once you know the issues with your users, the process is usually quite stable. I'm in a Windows 10 client, and I'm going to take a look at the Windows Defender firewall. And that will tell me if there's any outbound blocking ports if I'm having any trouble trying to connect VPN. If I am, I'll just click on Advanced Settings and go to my outbound rules. Now I'm going to type the letter R. That will take me down to routing and remote access. And there's 3 different routing and remote access protocols. GRE out and PPTP out both have to do with point-to-point tunneling protocol. So if you see a rule for that and it's been disabled, something like this, where we right-click and choose Disable, then you won't be able to get outbound to the server using those protocols. I'll click Enable Rule. What if we see it on L2TP? Then we would do the same thing. Now, SSTP has to do with secure socket layer, and you won't see that under routing and remote access because you also use SSL for doing things such as secure web browsing, like shopping online. But if you see a rule that blocks outbound 443, then that would block any SSTP VPN. Let's take a look at our internet-provided router, which also has a firewall built into it. When I open up a command prompt, if I type ipconfig, hit enter, can see that the gateway, which is the default gateway address, is 192.168.0.1. It also shows an IPv6 address as well, but we don't have to worry about that. We can just use the IPv4. Either one would work fine. Now I want to open up the web browser and log into my firewall. This particular router/firewall comes from Comcast, which is one of the more popular ones, which is why I'm showing it. But even if you're not using Comcast, you're using another brand, it's possible that the firewall will look very similar. I'm going to first click on Firewall and click on IPv4, which is what we're mostly connecting outbound on. And this is one of the things to check on. You want to make sure that you don't have the security set too high. So if we set it to high or medium, it's possible it might block your VPN connections outbound. But if you set it to custom security, you might end up doing the same thing. Minimum is the best way to go. It does block all inbound ports and allows most outbound ports. So even though it says minimum, it doesn't mean that it's less security when it comes to connecting to your VPN. Another good thing to look at would be the advanced section. If we have any inbound ports that are redirecting any VPN traffic to another location, then that can cause you outbound port traffic problems. Same thing can happen with port triggering. And in a Comcast gateway, as you see here, it's typically used to improve online gaming and online chat applications, but it could have a port trigger for VPN here as well that could be causing a problem. If you see any enabled, you can go ahead and remove them from either port forwarding or port triggering. I like to also go to Troubleshooting and click on Show Logs to show any logs that have happened that might give you a clue as to why your VPN connection may be timing out or having problems connecting. If we click on Diagnostic Tools, we can also put in the destination address. So if we know the IP address or the domain name that we're trying to connect to, you can go ahead and test the connectivity to make sure it's working. I'll put in the name of our certificate, which I know points to that IP address, and I'll just put in a count of 5 and click Test Connectivity. And we see 5 packets sent and 5 packets received. So resolution is definitely not an issue. We can also go down to the traceroute results, and we can put in the IP address that we're trying to get to and see if it routes properly or if it gets stuck at a router along the way. And I'll click the Start Trace Route, and we'll see what happens. And here we see the traceroute going from one location to the other, and it gets all the way up to Route 15, and then it says the trace is complete. So what we're seeing here is there could be a problem with getting all the way to the IP address. Now what I did was I put in a different IP address that I know it could not get to just to show you how it can fail. And what you want to do at this point is call the internet service provider and say that you're trying to connect to another location and it gets stopped at this particular route at Route 15. And then they'll go in and try to troubleshoot to see if there's a routing problem on their end. Firewall and routing problems could be a reason for your VPN to fail from the client. Taking these steps can bring your VPN users back online with access to their resources. Cisco firewalls are the most popular type of corporate firewall, and it will be one that I'm using in this video so I can show you to make sure that all of your ports are going to be open for your various different services. The top two commands basically set up a static network address translation, which allows us to have traffic from the outside get translated to the inside IP address of my server. So the object network obj-IP address that you see at the top, that's the IP address of the inside IP address of my server. And the next line that we see NAT inside outside, that is the public IP address. And this ties them together by having these two commands, one after the other. After that, we have to have access lists. So besides having the network traffic being translated, there are 65,535 TCP and UDP ports, making a total of around 130,000 ports that we can port forward from the outside in. So it's not just the NAT that we have to set up, it's also the type of traffic as well. And the first command that you see there is for point-to-point tunneling protocol traffic, which is a type of VPN. And the PPTP command that you see here covers two different protocols, both the protocol that uses TCP 1723 as well as the GRE protocol. And Cisco came up with this one command that covers both of them. After that, you see three different access list commands that port forward for L2TP type of VPN. And the 443 command after that is used for SSL or SSTP VPN on a Windows server. After that, we also see a www, which goes hand in hand with 443 if you're using a server as a web server. And the last one would port forward SMTP traffic, which is the same as email on TCP port 25. So I'm going to copy all these commands and paste them into my Cisco ASA firewall. I'll need to open up a command prompt so I can log into the firewall. You can use either SSH or Telnet, whichever way you feel more comfortable. SSH is a little more secure because it is encrypted. Now I'm typing the enable command to get me into the global exec mode. After that, I need to go into config terminal mode. So I type in config T, and now I can paste in all those commands. I've copied the commands, and so now I'm pasting them in, and we can see that the network object for NAT is in as well as all the access lists. Next, we write it to memory. And then you can test connectivity from the outside in. Now I'm going to use a tool that I got from nmap.org. It's called ZenMap. And what it'll do for us is it'll scan to see what ports are open. I'm going to paste in the IP address that we had worked on previously. And I'm going to change this from an intense scan to a quick scan. And that's because the ASA firewall may just shut down all the port traffic if it sees an intense scan. And I'll click scan, and we'll see what's open. And we see SMTP, HTTP, and HTTPS is open. So most of the ports that we had opened are showing as being open. However, not all of the ports. So now what you would want to do is you would want to go back to the server that this points to, and you would want to make sure that it's listening on those ports. We know the firewall is set up. We know that the applications are set up on the server, but it's possible the ports are not being listened on by the computer itself. I've opened up a Windows computer just to show you what you can type to find out what ports are being listened on a computer. So I'll type in netstat -an, and I'll put in the pipe command and type more. And that's because there's many pages, and we don't want it to scroll all the way to the bottom. Hit enter, and here we can see the ports that the computer is listening on. So if you don't see the ports that you need for VPN, that means the problem may be on the firewall, on the server. Those ports have not been opened up there. It could also be because you're using a third-party anti-malware application, which could be blocking those ports, and you'll need to go into that product and open those ports. Then we'll have a smooth connection from the client through the firewall and onto the server.